This video is a tutorial and review of a $3 soldering practice kit from AliExpress where you build a light up fidget spinner. So to build the fidget spinner, I broke the soldering into a few different sections. You can solder the components on in any order. This is just how I tackled it. The first section I did was this column of resistors. So to solder them on, I added flux to just half the pads on the dominant side. So I'm left-handed, so I go through and tin all of the pads on the left side and then grab each resistor with the tweezers and anchor it to that side. After that, I rotate the entire thing so that the pads that we haven't touched yet are on my dominant side, and then just anchor the other side of the resistors. And you can see that these are marked for resistors. That's the R1 through R11 on the circuit board. And resistors don't have a polarity, so you can see that some of them look kind of upside down, and that's fine, it doesn't matter. This second section is where we get to solder on the IC, which is the chip with all the little legs on it. So one thing to note is that if you look on the circuit board itself, there's kind of a notch cut out on the right side toward the U1 label, and there is a circle on the chip itself, and so that circle needs to be in the corner where U1 is. Otherwise it's not going to work. So the way I approach this is clean the board and then tin one of the corner legs, and then line up the integrated circuit and attach that one leg so that it's kind of anchored to the board. And then I go through and attach the other legs just using a little bit of solder in the soldering iron. Once the IC is done, there are two more spots labeled R12 and C1. So R12 is just another one of those resistors, and C1 is the only capacitor that they sent in the kit. And you can tell the capacitor because it's more of a tan color. And this type of capacitor doesn't have, it doesn't need to be attached in a certain direction. So just solder it on like we did with the other resistors. This next section is where we attach the LEDs to the board. So there's a few things with the orientation of the LEDs that you need to be aware of, otherwise it's not going to work. So the LEDs come colored on the negative side, but you also need to orient them where like the wider part is attached to the circuit board so that the actual LED shines outward and not toward the circuit board. And if you look on the board itself, the D's are for diode, so those are marked, and then opposite pads of the D's, they're kind of marked with a vertical dash, and that's where the negative leg goes. So you just need to be cognizant of how to line them up. And then you solder them on just like you did the resistors and capacitor, with anchoring one side and then going to the other side and anchoring that with the iron. They do send you red, green, and blue diodes, LEDs, so you can just arrange those any way you want. I think I did a blue, green, red, and alternated like that. But they send you more diodes than you need, so you can customize it however you want. Next is soldering on a little push button switch that works as like turning the fidget spinner on and off. One thing you need to keep in mind here is that you want this to be centered best you can, because there's a little piece of plastic that you press after we put the cover, or kind of put it into its housing. So that needs to be lined up with the center of the button, so do your best to align everything centered here. The last items we solder on are the battery holders or connectors. So they have 4 legs, you can see here. 2 of the legs get pushed through the circuit board, and those are the points you anchor. But the other 2 legs that don't go through the circuit board, there's markings printed on the circuit board that show you where those go, and those kind of control how you insert the battery. So pay attention there and line those up right. And all we do is put the 2 legs through the board and then solder them on. So after you get the battery holders soldered on, you can insert the batteries and be mindful of the polarity. Positive goes up just like the marking shows on the holder. And then go and press the button and your LEDs should light up. So here's the final assembly of the fidget spinner. So there's 2 plastic housing pieces. And one thing to keep in mind is that there's kind of a cutout that you can press on one of the plastic housings, and that needs to go over the button on the circuit board. And make sure that you put in the ball bearing in the center before you put on the last piece of the housing. And the 3 screws, it's really easy to over tighten the screw on the side with the button, and in that case the button will stay stuck down and it'll seem like the fidget spinner's not working. So keep that in mind. But all in all, I think this is a really good practice kit, especially for the price. It doesn't take too long and results in something that's kind of cool. And it also comes with the batteries, which is nice. It also only takes kind of basic soldering tools and supplies. So all in all, I think it's a pretty good soldering kit for practice, and I would recommend it. Thanks for watching.